Hi students, welcome to the social science class. Today we will do what is democracy and why democracy. Before starting the chapter, we will start the chapter with a quotation, that is, if you cannot do great things, do small things in a great way. Means everything is special. We are special. Democracy is special. So today we will try to learn about democracy, its meaning, and why do we need a democracy. Let's start, students. Yes, what is democracy? Democracy is basically a type of government in which we choose our representatives, and those representatives make laws for us. They rule on behalf of us. In this chapter, students, we will study different topics. The topics are given here. What is democracy? Features of democracy? Why democracy? Then we will have some arguments against democracy, that there are some drawbacks of democracy. Some people don't like democracy. There are few reasons behind that. Then we will study some arguments for democracy, in support of democracy. And then at the end, we will study the broader meaning of democracy. Let's see all the things. Let's start the video. Very basic question that comes when we just listen the word democracy. What is a democracy? Yes, democracy is a form of government in which rulers are elected by the people. And before talking about the features of democracy, I just want to tell you one thing, that democracy is of two types. Number one, direct democracy. Number two, indirect democracy. Direct democracy is a kind of democracy in which people directly participate in the decision making. Like we have to select a monitor of the class, then we can just have few students who will just uh, come out and want to become a monitor, and all other students vote for their choices. So in this way, this can be called a direct democracy in which people directly participates in the decision making process. But right now, in the present scenario, throughout the world, we are practicing indirect democracy. What is indirect democracy? We do not participate in the decision making directly, but we choose our representatives, and those representatives takes major decisions for us. That is known as democracy in an indirect manner, or we call it a representative form of democracy. Following are the features of a democratic government, of a democracy. We will study them one by one. Let's have a look. Major decisions by elected leaders, free and fair electoral competition, provisions of one person, one vote. Elected rulers take decisions within limits set by the constitutional law and citizens' right. Rule of law and respect for laws and respect for rights. Rights of the citizens must be protected by the constitution. Let's see the situations. We are talking about democracy, and the first feature of democracy is given here, the major decisions taken by the elected leaders. Here we have one example from Pakistan. That in Pakistan, General Pervez Musharraf led a military coup in 1999, and he overthrew the democratically elected government and became the president of the country. Then in 2002, he held a referendum in the country, and it was full of malpractices and fraud, and becomes the president of the country for next 5 years. Then he just passed few more laws, and finally he became the dictator, military dictator of the Pakistan. He dismissed means he was having a legal power to dismiss the national and provincial assemblies. Can we say that Pakistan is a democracy country? No. Through all these things from 1999 and before also, Pakistan was having a history of military general rules, military rules. So Pakistan cannot be called a democracy. Second feature is given here is free and fair electoral competition. Yes, a democracy must be based on free and fair electoral competition. Everybody must have a chance to participate in the elections. Everyone should be free to contest election and to cast their votes. Yes, that should be there. And every ruling government must have a chance to lose in the elections also. Then only we will say that the electoral competition is so good that it is free and fair. Everybody is having a fair chance to win in the elections. But here is a case of China. We can say that in every 5 years we are having elections in China. But before contesting the elections, every candidate needs to approve from the Chinese Communist Party. And the government is also formed by Chinese Communist Party after every elections. So we do not have other political parties. Political parties, they should be associated with the Chinese Communist Party only. So we can't say China is a true democratic country. No, China is not a democratic country. Now we have a case of Mexico. What is the case? Let's see. Mexico hold elections after every 6 years. Very good. But until 2006, every election was won by party that was known by a name PRI, Institutional Revolutionary Party. But it was claimed by the opposition parties and many other peoples that PRI used dirty tricks to win in the elections. It was not free and fair elections in Mexico. So we can say that Mexico is also not a democratic country. Now let's see the third feature that is given here in our book, that is person, one vote, one value. Now we can see that in a democratic country, every person is important. It is based on the principle of universal adult franchise. It means that every adult citizen of the country is having a right to vote, and there will be no discrimination on any basis, and nobody will be denied equal rights to vote. But we have few examples in the chapter that in countries like Saudi Arabia, where women do not have a voting right, it is not a democratic country. Yes, we do have Estonia. It has made its citizenship rules in such a way that a person belonging to Russian minority find it difficult to get right to vote. If you belong to Russian minority group, you will not be able to get a right to vote in Estonia. So this is also a problem. Yes, we do have another case of Fiji. We can say that the electoral system is such that the vote of indigenous Fiji has more value than that of an Indian Fiji. Indian Fiji's vote's value is lesser than the indigenous Fiji's vote. But yes, democracy, each adult citizen must have one vote and each vote must have equal value, one value. So we can say that there are some problems with Saudi Arabia, Estonia and Fiji. They must practice one person, one vote and one value concept. Now, rule of law and respect for rights. We can say that if we take the case of Zimbabwe, it got its independence in 1980, and from then it was ruled by the political party ZANU PF, and the leader of ZANU PF was Robert Mugabe. From 1980s to a long period of time, we have seen that Robert Mugabe used unfair practices to win in the elections. What kind of unfair practices? Basically, opposition parties' meetings were disrupted and opposition workers were harassed. Public protests and demonstrations against the government were declared illegal in Zimbabwe. Television and radios were controlled by the government and gave only to the ruling party version. Yes, the government was controlling TV and media and all sorts of communication basically. And the government has ignored some court's judgments that were against it and has pressurized the judges. Even the government was not listening to the judges. So in this case, the government was not democratic as citizens were not having any basic right, no political opposition, and no judiciary. A democratic government always follow the rules of the constitution and rule of the law. Law is supreme authority there. So students, in this particular module, till now we have seen what is democracy, and we try to understand different features of the democracy. In the next video module, we will just try to understand the concept why democracy, argument against the democracy and in support of the democracy. Till then, try to understand this video, try to go through the concept of the particular chapter, and just give me comments and messages if you don't understand the topic. See you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.